Today I'm going to recap Oklahoma versus Kansas State and all that's coming up. Today I'm going to recap Oklahoma versus Kansas and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, going to recap Oklahoma's 62-9 victory against Kansas, in which Oklahoma went up to the refs and said, hey, look, we're going to make sure that every kid gets an at-bat or plays an inning before the third. I promise you. Because that's how it felt, right? Rattler is really sort of the story because it looked like he hurt what I thought was an oblique, what other people thought was a hip, but was clearly really just a difficult way for him. Man, there's conversations going on over there, and I don't know exactly what it is. No, I think Laurel is talking to the girls on the phone. Laurel's in the living room. All right, so Rattler could not fire off of his back foot, which meant that he could not fire with power. And we saw this in the first half, and then we asked, why does Lincoln Riley continue to play him? Like, against Kansas. Now, he finishes the day 15-27, 212 yards, a TD, and a pick, because even against Kansas, he's going to throw a pick. Redshirt freshman quarterback will take it. But the story, I thought, was Rhamondre Stevenson, who not only rushed for over 100 yards, but was tremendous in catching the ball out of the backfield. He had 4 catches for 60 yards, which makes him the second leading receiver. But that also leads me to this other conversation about what Austin Stogner doing. 3 catches, 75 yards, and a touchdown, but he was in his street clothes on the sideline in the second half. I hope that is to preserve him for further, discussion when we go into the bye week, talk about Oklahoma State. As Oklahoma State knocks off Kansas State, and it seems like Oklahoma can walk into the Big 12 championship. But for the second straight week, Oklahoma puts up 62 points. For the second straight week, we see all 3 quarterbacks. Shout out to Chandler Morris, who got to score his first TD in front of his dad. His dad was in the stands. I know there's some Arkansas fans like, yo, man, what are you even doing anywhere near the state of Arkansas? Even as, Alabama's just over there and he's the offensive coordinator at Auburn, used the bye week to go see his kid play. It's really difficult to take anything away from this game except that there were a bunch of guys that got opportunities to play. Mikey Henderson continues to look really great. I love that quarterbacks like Braden Willis and Mikey Henderson are both H-backs, tight ends, running back kind of players in this offense. I love that he's getting looks. I like seeing Jaden Hazelwood back on the field, even if he's picking up holding penalties every now and again. Had a catch for 33 yards. Marcus Major reappears. And we got to see everybody from Bryson Washington to Justin Harrington to Jamal Morris, Nick Bonito, and David Ugwebu continue to come on. And I loved watching Anton Harrison and Andrew Rame at the end of the game on that left side of the offensive line. They look really good against Kansas. So we're going to do with that what we will. And yet, I'm looking at Jalen Daniels, and I'm going, good night, man, because I thought that he dislocated his hip. Turned out he'd done something to his ankle. Either way, he's minding his own damn business on the sideline, and Les Miles' kid runs him over into a brick wall, which I think is a metaphor for something. I'm just not sure what it is. I know that there were some folks that had some things to say about the commentators, but what I thought was they weren't actually on site, and that makes it a little bit more difficult. Don't even know what the coronavirus situation might have been about who's going to get that game. You know that it's OU in Kansas, so it's probably not a high priority. They even moved the game to ESPNU, where I received some complaints on Twitter about people not being able to locate the game. And you also know that the world's largest outdoor cocktail party is going on, in which Florida is destroying Georgia. And Kirby Smart just won't play JT Daniels, which I believe is going to become an even bigger story after this, because when Dwan Mathis actually started to move the football a little bit more, you were going, why doesn't Dwan Mathis getting more opportunities? But to stick with this game, right? I'm counting. We had Austin Stogner, Rhamondre Stevenson, Jaden Hazelwood, Marvin Mims, Mikey Henderson, Theo Weiss, Marcus Major, Charleston Rambo, Drake Stoops, Jeremiah Hall, and Theo Howard all catch passes. That's 11 players. And then we saw guys that got to touch the ball. Tailbacks include Rhamondre Stevenson, who has taken over that bell cow spot from TJ Pledger, to Seth McGowan, Mikey Henderson back there, Marvin Mims on what looked like a really cool play. It's hard to say that Oklahoma would be a better football team. Let me go at this again. It's hard not to say that Oklahoma would be a better football team if they'd have had Ronnie Perkins, Rhamondre Stevenson back from the jump. I don't know that they would have been undefeated, though, because, that's hard to say. Iowa State's a good football team. Kansas State took advantage of some really big plays that had more to do with the secondary than they had to do with the front seven, right? So I think, when we're talking about would they be undefeated, Rhamondre Stevenson put the ball on the ground a lot last year, even as he rushed for a ton of yards. He hadn't done so much this year, but you get the point there. I'm not prepared to say that Oklahoma would have been undefeated. That's what I'm saying. Would you want to take back one or both of those losses? Of course you would, but this is where it is. And Oklahoma State did everybody a solid in Norman when they went and beat Kansas State after it looked like they were having a really hard time against Kansas State. And then Kansas State and Iowa State still got to play each other. And Oklahoma's sitting pretty. Then you had Texas go knock off West Virginia earlier today. And it's been ho-hum in the Big 12. There hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. Oklahoma's still the class of the league, and yet Oklahoma, at least this week, is the 19th best team in the country. We're having more to say about the Big 10 because Indiana is undefeated. We're having more to say about the Pac-12 because they're just getting started, and USC saved their season on the first week with a dramatic performance against Arizona State, which is probably the toughest game that they have on the schedule. The SEC is going to stay the SEC. We don't particularly expect Alabama to lose, and yet Florida could be right there and give them a run with their money because we've seen Georgia, who was supposed to be the second best defense in all of college football, get absolutely torched by the only two offenses that were worth a damn that they played in Alabama and Florida. Both Kyle Trask and Mac Jones have had Heisman moments against the Georgia defense. So as we continue to just wait and see what Oklahoma turns out to be over the course of this 10-game non-conference schedule or 9-game non-conference schedule into the Big 12 championship, we hope, I'm not really that enthusiastic about it, but I also think this is where Oklahoma wants to be. Anytime we're talking about Oklahoma as being a top 5 program or in that top 3, it seems like the pressure seems to get to them. And that's another reason why I don't necessarily think that adding Rhamondre Stevenson and Ronnie Perkins to the mix makes Oklahoma an undefeated team. We've seen what Oklahoma does in those moments, and somehow they end up dropping a game to somebody they have no business dropping a game to. The same Texas Tech team they dropped 62 on is the one that beat West Virginia the first time. The Texas team that is more talented than anybody else has a hard time moving the ball through the air and lost Keontae Ingram this week. Bijan Robinson had over 100 yards rushing, and he's becoming the player that I thought he would be in the Big 12. So I think we're just going to have to wait and see for Bedlam because that's the game now. That's the one that everybody's going to wait and take a look at, and that's where we feel like we will see the Big 12 champ emerge from, right? Whether it be Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. Texas might be right there. But solid win. Hopefully Spencer Rattler's okay. Hopefully Austin Stogner's okay. And on to the next. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.